Remix. 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 Remix.
Oh, yeah. Welcome out. This is the Remix Morning Show. Right here on Black Liberation Media. In case you didn't know, I go by the name of the Air Doctor. Came and bring you that Rockers International. Yes, my brethren and sister, and it's time to get down. And let me introduce you to the sound of the one them call Jackie Lookman. Hey. You know, I did not know what they were saying in that dancehall music, but I was just singing along like I did.
And it sounds like you still don't know.
I don't. It's good to see you, Jackie.
Thank you. It's good to see you. It's good to be seen. I guess,
Right?
especially now. Dear God,
I know. We never know what the next day holds. Every day it's a bomb or something going off. I don't know.
Hey, I'm just trying to hold on to my sanity at this point.
Okay. Well, big up to who's this? Ashkin Hemati. He said, I gotta go, but I'll leave the stream on for algorithms. Love this show. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And my brother Jamil, assalamu alaikum, alaikum assalam, Ramadan.
Mubarak.
Okay. Now, what is Mubarak? I don't know that one.
Blessed Ramadan.
Oh, okay. How long is Ramadan? 30 days?
Don't get me that, because the little finite details like that I forget.
I
cannot remember how long. Let me see. How long is Ramadan?
I know brother Jamil gonna let us know in like 1, 2, 3. 30 days. 30 Look at that.
Boom. It is 30 days. Yeah. 30
days. Y'all gotta get on the train here, man. I'll be trying to put y'all on.
I don't do it.
The bus? Taxi? Uber?
Not the. I don't fast. I don't do it. I don't.
Oh yeah, I don't either. You don't never fast? Like you've never done like a day or two?
Well, I used to, but I can't now because of the medical condition. I can't. I'm not supposed to fast. But Lent is. People are funny because people are like, "Oh, the Muslims, Lent is Ramadan, basically." It's the same.
Really? Oh, I thought Lent was about pushing the ash on your forehead and keeping it moving.
Well, that is a part of it, but Lent, that's Ash Wednesday. And but Lent is, and not even all Christians celebrate Lent or celebrate is not the right word. Observe Lent. But Lent is very much like Ramadan. It's the same principle. You are focusing on your faith walk. You're focusing on your relationship with the divine, and you are giving up things that are distractions for you, that you have a difficult time handling, or that you think might be holding you back in some way. That's pretty much Lent. You give up things that you really like. So don't say you're going to give up something that you wouldn't normally do anyway during Lent. You give up, like a lot of people give up their favorite food. Like my church is observing not having fried food and no sugar for 30 days. Which I don't really mess with a whole lot of fried food and sugar anyway. But that's the idea. You give up something so that thing is not a distraction for you, really centering yourself in your faith.
And you're connected to your higher being.
How strong your faith walk is. But Ramadan is the same.
Yeah.
And Purim, I believe, although it is connected to a specific event, which I can't quite remember right now, but Judaism has the same actual Judaism, not Zionism. Judaism has the same kind of principle. And I think most spiritual beliefs, regardless of what it is, have an ideology of personal purification.
It just didn't pass down to the Baptists.
Yes, it did.
In what
Yeah.
way? Because I hear you
Baptist
saying
fast.
Catholics, I hear you saying Islam, but
Christians.
Christian. But
Christians. Yes.
what is it called?
Lent is not a Catholic. Lent,
We never.
Protestant denominations observe Lent too.
Oh, you
Yeah,
did do
not all of
linealism.
them, but some do. Like my church, United Church of Christ, we observe Lent.
Mm,
Seventh Day Adventists observe Lent. I think Lutherans do, and the whole Advent. Yeah, yeah.
mm.
It's not just
Oh, okay.
Catholics who observe Lent. Yeah.
I might could be a 5 day, but I don't know about a 7 day. But I did go to a Catholic school when I was in elementary school. We had to they would put the ashes on our head, and I never knew what it was about. I heard Rakim talk about digging in his pocket, all he found was lint. But other than that, I didn't know what they was doing. So thank you for clearing that up for me. but, but I think it's good to do a refresher and like do stuff like that. What I try to do is take my shoes off and go outside and put my feet on the ground and do some grounding and stuff like that. Um
Mhm,
and I do fast like for a weekend. Like but I still do like water and
mhm.
maybe it's like some fruit or something. That ain't much of fast, but some when you get sick, it's an involuntary fast. You know what I mean?
Well, pretty much, yeah. I mean, and as a follower of Jesus Christ, people put a whole lot of uh, stock, and I
Mm.
say this from a Christian perspective.
Mhm.
I do we might as well not do Lent.
What?
we, we, Christians in the U.S. and in the West might as well not do it. Just
I
leave it
mean,
alone because
I
y'all
ain't never
messed up.
seen it. I
We
ain't
we
never seen it.
what
And
what
I
what
grew up in the Baptist church. So I was like, okay.
and that's the thing. I mean, the Protestant denominations kind of follow their own rules. They don't, depending on which conference they belong to.
Mm,
Southern Baptists might not follow the same practices and traditions that Baptist churches outside of the Southern Baptist Convention might practice.
mm,
Church of God in Christ that's a whole nother denomination. They don't adhere to the same rules as Baptists. Methodists,
Methodist, they got their own method.
Lutherans, yeah,
Yeah.
Episcopalians. These are all Protestant Christian denominations. Protestant meaning they're not Catholic, but they're all Christian and they
Mm.
all kind of follow different. Yeah.
They
So,
had a scene in this movie Ron Burgundy. I don't know if you remember it. It
oh,
was
I
like
remember that movie.
you remember when they had all the different news stations fighting each other? I want to see all the different Episcopalians, 7 day events. I want to see all them just get out on the battlefield and fight for the best religion. Let's go.
you
I
know,
would give I would give it to the Catholics. They done did some shit that I don't think other people.
well, look, don't just blame the Catholics because
I'm saying as in the shit that they've done, as in conquering with in the name of. Ooh,
I
I don't think
mean,
I don't think the Lutherans can fuck with them. I'm just saying.
well, as a denomination, okay,
Yeah.
but Christianity writ large has been manipulated from the very beginning to justify a whole bunch of imperialist crap. I mean,
Mm,
Christians in the West, and this is my pet peeve, I guess, but this is also why I wrote the book that I wrote. Um, we don't believe that the Bible that we have is a mistranslation of a mistranslation of a misled translation
mhm,
of a bunch of lies that the Roman Empire got a hold of from the very beginning, and rewrote or translated and then rewrote some sections of the original scrolls to justify empire, right? So from the very beginning, the first popularized documentation or widely available
Mm-hmm.
translation or documentation of the original Dead Sea Scrolls
The
and
Torah.
the accounts of the life of Christ were already bastardized by
Mm-hmm.
the empire that these things kind of happened in. So, and then you go from that, from Constantine, from the Roman Empire, from the Greeks, mistranslating things intentionally, right? And
Yeah.
making this movement, this official state religion. That's what Constantine did, and changed a bunch of stuff.
Was that part of the Nicene Conference?
That was the history of the manipulation of the Christian texts is so incredibly understudied, misunderstood, and we don't get how bad it is. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, the Nicene Council is one of those. There were several councils, and the discussions were not about what the texts, the original scrolls actually said,
Mm-mm.
whether these things happened, whether they were true or not. No, the conversations were about what do we want to include in the official narrative that will benefit us. And
Yeah,
this
hell
was the
yeah.
powerful. This was they were not looking at this text and saying, how do we popularize this among the people to empower the people? These councils were the powerful in these societies, in these ancient societies, looking at the texts that the people who encountered some of these things or documented these things wrote and said, this is a different way of dealing with being oppressed. I think this is pretty important. And the
Mm.
people in power in these empires got a hold of these texts and said, how do we use this for our advantage? Because this movement is growing. We
Yeah.
can't get rid of these people. We tried to kill them because Nero was insane.
And
And the emperor before him, that's
Mhm.
when the persecution of Christians, well, they weren't called Christians then, persecution of followers of Jesus Christ,
Mhm.
and feeding them to wild animals and gladiator games. Yeah, that stuff actually
It,
happened.
it
Um,
make you realize how the power of scribes, like really to being
yeah.
able to like how much power you had to write a book, and then you take it all the way to the Americas, and then them outlawing you to even be able to read books. There's so much power in these books, and it also makes you think of how many authors use this manipulation when writing these books, like
Hmm.
in different types of texts, not even in religious texts.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
and it is unfortunate that human nature is such that some of us, a lot of us, can't have a little bit of power and a little bit of money, because
Mm-mm.
this is
Mm-mm. Because
that's what happened.
the victor writes the history.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, when you couple manipulation of spiritual texts, right?
yeah.
This is we need to get away from this idea that the Bible is a historical document. It's not. It's
Hmm.
a collection of stories and allegories and
Hmm.
poems and mystical writing to deliver a moral message, right? And it was written, these different texts were written thousands of years apart by different people, from different areas in this region, from different groups of people who all kind of documented the same sort of thing, living in the midst of the occupation of an empire, and how regular people were encouraged or inspired to treat each other differently within that context, to both survive within the empire and to challenge the empire. So in a really weird kind of way, even with all of the manipulation, the human manipulation um, to use these spiritual texts to control people and maintain and grow imperialist power through control. Somehow, the message of the power of people's unity and the condemnation of empire still got through. Like somehow the people in power decided not to change a lot of that text. So that is still in there. And if you really read the text, you can see where they deviate from the original idea
Yeah.
of people need to be united and empire and oppression is bad and we
Yeah.
should fight against it. And that, I think that's very interesting, but it's also interesting the things that people focus on, because instead of focusing on the liberation message that is in the text, people focus on the message of domination
Mm-hmm.
that has been inserted in the text
Because
by
that's the riches. I mean, when you look at
right.
domination, that's the riches. You get to eat good, you get to live good. Like when you conquer, like you get put in books, you get talked about, you're revered. But all the brokies over here, we're not talking about them. You know what I'm saying? So now that you're an author now, do you feel like how are you going to manipulate in a positive way, get these organizations to get their shit right? Is that part of what your text is going to be? Because you have the power now where you can, you've seen how organizations work. Is this book going to be about organizations or what you seen, what you saw?
No,
None of that.
no.
Well,
I'm
when
just
is that
cussing
book
out
coming?
white. No,
When
I'm
is
just
that?
cussing
When
out
is
white.
that book coming out?
I don't know.
Okay.
and
I'm getting y'all
honestly,
ready.
but honestly, I don't think I want to write that book. I don't think I need to write that
Mm,
book because that is the one topic what organizers, what anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist organizers in the West need to do. We have the blueprint for that. We
mm-hmm.
have the documentation for that. People just don't want to do it. They really, I'm looking at this organizing landscape and yes, the propagandization, all of that kind of stuff. The sectarianism in this country is, oof, it's a lot.
I tell you, could tell you about sectarianism. Gains.
Uh-oh.
Because why did that be my intro?
With your Black Liberation Media hat, I see you out here.
Speaking of
Yes.
sectarianism, Bisha.
No, I don't even know what that word means, but I'm sure y'all about to let me know. It sounds like a secretary that's on another level.
No. But you're gonna have to go look it up. But yeah,
No.
I don't wanna. I feel like I want to write about this whole 2016 online progressive Bernie Sanders collaborating with the alt-right
Mm.
foolishness that helped get us here. But I don't know. I'm just still pissed off. I'm just petty about that.
I'm telling you, man, I think it would help if you wrote a book about how to organize. Like,
I don't know.
There's plenty of books that exist like that,
Thank you. No,
But they're
nobody
not.
needs
Wait
another
a minute. The
book.
author's not Jackie though. Let's
It
just get
doesn't.
it clear.
There ain't nothing special about me.
Let's get it perfectly clear. In my Stephen A.
Ain't nothing.
voice.
No, ain't nothing special about me. That if I wrote a book about organizing, it would be any more well received or any more read than the books that are already out there. No.
All right.
I also just want to name part of the organizing issue is, that there's more concerted effort in the knowing how to versus the going to do it. So there's a lot of how do you do this? How do you do that? Where much of it comes from, testing. Some shit doesn't work and some shit does. And you won't know until you go do it. So there's an organizing tip.
Okay. Well, if I was to write a book, I think it would be on,
No, I just, just a thought. I was bewildered by the thought.
Wow. I'm over here hurt. I'm hurt, Rick.
No, I'm
I was to
following
write a
along with
book,
the hypothetical.
it would be on motivation and how to be a good human. That's really what my book would be about. What would your book be about? What topics would you want to talk about, Erica,
I
when it
have a
comes to
book.
writing a book? Really?
I have a poetry book that it will be 12
Okay.
pages. Yeah.
Poetry's cool. I got a
Wow.
poetry book.
Wow.
I got a
First of all, and
poetry
also,
book.
I heard y'all spiel on poetry. You know
What? No, that's Kamel.
And I'm not. I just want to name that I am not a spoken word artist. Okay. I am a writer.
So you got a poetry. Okay, got it. So other than poetry, what topic would you feel like you can crush?
Well, thank you for asking me what the book is called. It's called All in Love is Fair.
What is it called? My
All
bad.
in Love is Fair.
Oh.
And it is a play off Stevie Wonder's All in Love is Fair. Because it's a 3-part kind of story. It tells a story. It's just written in prose and other forms.
How long ago you did this?
12 years, as I noted.
Well,
before you cut me off.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I wasn't listening.
Yeah,
hey, so
I know.
So we can get like some on one of our breaks. We can get a little excerpt. Did I say that right?
No, because I am a writer.
You don't recite. You're not a reciter. You're a writer, not a reciter. You crazy. You can spit, man. Stop. You can spit that poetry. You got to, because it's not going to sound right from other people, probably. It got to come from you.
Yeah, that's why it's to be read.
by the reader.
Right.
I don't
it's to be read.
Look.
I'm not advocating that anyone go around speaking it.
Thank you. My opinions on poetry, well documented. And it's not that I hate poetry. I just don't like it being read to me. That I can read. It's okay.
It ain't the same.
And I'm not gonna sit there and just read. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna read a book of poetry. I'll read a poem. And it's like, oh, that's nice.
How about an audio? How about an audio book? Because you gotta hear the cadence. You gotta hear the cadence. You gotta hear the cadence.
Nope, I don't. I don't want your cadence. That's what I
listen
to
music for. Shakespeare read a thing.
That is what I listen to music for.
But you want to hear the sonnet.
I'm a weirdo. I admit it. I'm just saying. I don't need anybody else to read their poems to me.
All right. Well, I guess it's time to get into some good old news and everything. Big man, all right over there, Erica?
Yeah.
You good?
We're still here.
Okay.
We're still here.
The dog good over there, Jackie?
Yeah, he's okay. He's slowing down a little bit, but he all right, old man. Yep.
In the words of Whitney Houston over here, I have nothing. Nothing.
Your kids, though. Don't you have kids?
Oh, yeah. That's right. They good. They, well, one of them's down with a little sickness, so I had to tell them get like me, but you know they don't ever listen. The other one's doing real good. She got a bunch of colleges trying to come at her right now. Seton Hall sent her something. She's a sophomore, and I'm like, Seton Hall, you don't want to go there. You ain't ready for Jersey. All right, so let's go ahead. Nobody's ready for Jersey.
Every time I drive past.
Those silent screams driving past Camden.
You speed up a little bit.
A little bit.
A lot of it.
Roll out the windows.
By exit 6, I'm out of here.
Word. 7A, Trenton, where you at? Blah, blah, blah. All right, anyway, let's get out of here. Take a quick break right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Well, I guess it's time for a remix on the remix. Let's get it.
I can't get your tenderness, still I can't get you off my mind. What is it about you, baby?
I don't say love.
I'm still in love with you, boy.
Well, I'm a hustler and a player and you know I'm not to stay in that dirty love.
I'm still in love with you, boy.
So try to understand that a man is just a man. That's a dirty love.
I'm still in love with you, boy.
It's the way I give my love.
I'm still in love.
What a man gonna do? What a man gonna do?
All right, let me take you to a time and place. Let me take you back to the year of 20. Wait a minute, is that right? 22002. I don't even remember how you say that. 22. Yeah, I'll go with that. All right, boom. We talk about Sean Paul and them girl them called Sasha on the album Dirty Rock. The name of that song is I'm Still in Love with You. On the Ear Doctor Beat, of course. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, go to patreon.com, become a member over there, get footage that's rare, donate where at blkliberationmedia.org. Go over there, get you some swag, get fresh, and yeah, show your love, share, and let people know that Remix Morning Show is the show they need to be checking out. All right, that's it. Let's get back to it right here on the Remix Morning Show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Paul and Sasha.
Dun. We was talking earlier about how I didn't understand all the stuff they were saying, but I made it sound like it. Like, big up to Shaba. Shaba. Emlia. I'm the best.
Oh,
Talk about it.
Was Sean Paul the one? Was he the one? Was what that Right Temperature song? Was that him?
yeah.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy. When that song came out, I was in youth ministry. I was a youth minister. The Christian people lost their damn minds when the little Christian babies was dancing to the Right Temperature, and I'm just like, y'all, it's a song.
Yeah.
It's okay. The cheerings is not going to hell. Did you go to hell when you were winding your ass to Marvin Gaye? No, you did not. It's okay.
And you know,
calm down.
And you know what? That's part of Caribbean culture. Whereas it's a lot of Christians over there, so that's how they dance. Like,
Well,
we don't go nowhere.
I just want to say it is the actual Christians don't partake.
Oh, that's just dance hall. That's just the dance hall.
Oh no, they're judging. They're very still.
Yeah. Like, wait a minute, ain't no Christians up
The Rastafarians, they doing it.
There's a clip of it's like an old clip, and I can't even remember from where it came from, but it was Carnival, and it's like 8 something in the morning, and this man is on the video, and he said, "You hear all this shit? You hear this? 8 o'clock in the morning, gunman in your hole," like that.
Yeah, that's a wild.
Like gunman in your hole.
Yeah. I must say, Soca got some of the most risque songs I've heard. I'm just saying.
I wouldn't be opposed to that at 8 o'clock in the morning, but
suck your mother. I mean, come on. That's wild. That's wild. All right, enough of that. I'll catch you on the next break. Peace.
Oh boy. So I just because you always tell me that I don't talk enough about what I do, Erica. So I actually just found this out. I did not know that this existed until I posted the dust cover on my page and people went to look. The publisher did not give me this link. They didn't tell me that this book is already on pre-order. So I literally just found out that that Amazon already has this book on pre-order. You can pre-order this book. Yes, this is my book that I wrote. The estimated publication date here is December, but the publisher is saying June, and we are actually in final copy edits right now. I'm waiting for the copy edits. So this is the description. This is the book. It is We Need John Brown Christians Embracing Christianity That Confronts Power. Yes, that's me. Jesus Christ, I wrote a book. That's so yeah, I'm gonna drop this link here for you. I hate Amazon, but I didn't know that this was that this is already a pre-order link. Yeah, so okay, there you
Well,
go.
congratulations.
Thank
My
you.
friend, so I have a friend who her family they are of Concord Baptist in Brooklyn. So it's a family of pastors. She herself is in school right now, finishing up her PhD. And so she's seen the clip, the Chuck Modi clip of you speaking. And she's obsessed. And then when she's seen that you have a book on Christianity, she's like, oh. So yeah, so you already have fans. There's a lot of I seen in your comments when you had named that the book is like, in its last stages, and people are like already pre-ordered.
I'm just like, okay, all right. Because I am in the public a lot, I think people think I like being in the public a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And I fucking don't, y'all. I wanna be home with my music and my weird hobbies and my garden and my dog and hop on a plane every once in a while and go see something cool and work with some people to do something good for other people. I never wanted to be um I never wanted to be out front of anything. So this is very uncomfortable for me.
I think
So
you are natural at it. I think you have a natural disposition for it, which is evident in like when you're able to speak in the public and things like that. Whereas I'm not an introvert by any means, you know that. But I also am like, I stranger danger a bit, right? So see, that's like my Taurus rising. I'm very much like, okay, nice to meet you.
uh-huh. Yes. Yep.
And so it is strange when people approach you that you don't know to like gush over your work, because I don't know that anyone gets used to that. Particularly if that's not the intent, right? If
Right.
I guess if the intention is for that particular kind of praise, like you do, like you're visible for that.
Mhm.
So it is getting used to. I just got a random text from my cousin. It was like, proud of you.
Right. And you look at it like what?
That was it. That was it. Just a little drive by. Keep it up. Because they're not into, they don't know what to make of politics. So so it's like if one of us has to be, glad it's you. Like
Right. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's strange, but I do think there's consideration for the work that's produced. And so even in how we talk about citing sources and things like that, I don't know that it's even about wanting recognition, but there is a historic, don't get written out the historical memory of things.
Yeah.
You put in the work to name the thing, to explain the thing, and so it should be at the very least cited and recognized. And so I think it's a huge accomplishment to write a book. Yeah, and to have a publisher, because my book was self-published.
But I think
Yeah,
an enormous
but
accomplishment. I mean, just the discipline it takes to do that and the tenacity, because after a while it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not doing this. It's too hard.
yeah, and the funding, but but Yeah, I think it's an enormous feat and very praiseworthy. And the content, because I think we talk about religion in such a way, especially if we look at what's occurring geopolitically today, that is removed from the again, words that we speak about or are saying in passing. I think every couple years is a word that people are learning without ever really learning it, right? So how people have been using imperialism, and then now imperialism is placed everywhere, or so I see that with dialectics. And so so I see people are interested in learning about dialectics, but that's not something that you just learn. That is a continuous study. Because it's continuously changing, and that's what dialectics is. And so even when we talk about religion, I do think that there is, to your point, there's context missing, there's history missing, that really informs how we got to where we are, and that's with all three of the Abrahamic religions. So modernity, and these eras of creating civilization, and how that impacted how religion was used or not used. And you see that particularly, I'm learning about that as I finish out this book on the Middle East that has maps, thank God. But just how did it come together? And what I'm, interested in it, how do we, the terminology from the Middle East to now we refer to as West Asia, and like the political usage. And I see that not dissimilar to religion. Who is wielding these terms? Who is wielding, the religion? Because having gone to Nicaragua, and they hold their own mass because they're not fucking with the Catholic Church,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Or going to Cuba and being a part of, some of those Santeria. I have blessed bracelets and bangles. And so just seeing the different aspects and the way that people use and utilize culture on either spectrum, and religion on either spectrum, right? I think speaks to the dialectical use of it, and where we are today, especially as it pertains to people's overt reaction to religion. Because I don't see how people respond to Christianity as atheists dissimilar to how the response to Islam, it's just like a no. And I do think that does a disservice to how we're understanding the application of things, how we're understanding national liberation struggles, resistance struggles, what they're predicated on, barterism. So yeah. So I think it's worth having and confronting and struggling around religion. Sorry, I was long-winded.
I mean, and really, I didn't write this book because I wanted to. I was actually asked to write this book. This book started off as a monologue. It was a monologue called "Be Like John Brown." It was literally 2 pages of text that I read at the top of an episode of By Any Means Necessary, commemorating the execution of John Brown, commemorating his assassination. And the guy who is my agent, I guess now, he was a fan of the show, would listen all the time, heard that monologue, pitched the idea to his editors, saying, "Hey, listen to this. What do you think? What if we could get her to write a book about this?" They thought it was a good idea. The publishing company is an imprint of the Lutheran Church. So Broadleaf Books is a small imprint within, I think it's the Lutheran Church. So it's a publishing company that does progressive Christian texts. And he pitched the idea to his editors at Broadleaf Books. They loved the idea. Then he sends me an email asking me if I want to write the book. And I didn't believe that man. I ignored that man for almost a year. And he would not leave me alone. And he I finally responded to his email. And so yeah, that's how the book was written. But I'm like I always say, and I really do mean it, I am not trying to proselytize to another soul. I don't have any influence or power over what happens to your soul after this life or mine, to tell you the truth. So I'm not trying to get people to believe in anything. I am trying to explain in this book, particularly to white Christians, why their interpretation of the Christian faith is actually not the Christian faith and why they're the problem. That's what I'm doing in this book. And I'm looking at the history of where some of these lies come from, because they're not biblical. Prosperity gospel, dispensationalism, the rapture, Jesus coming back after a war in the Middle East. None of that is in the Bible. So where did it come from? And why do people believe it? That's what this book is. And the fact that, how do we have this religious text that seems to confound every other white Christian in this country, but John Brown and his family understood perfectly what they were supposed to do? Well, how to explain that?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I try to do in this book. So that's what it is.
Yeah. I do appreciate you naming that you're not trying to, and that's the thing I think I struggle with too, because I don't consider myself an atheist. I prefer non-theist. I grew up in non-denominational. I went to Long Reach Church of God. My mother grew up Catholic. I've seen all aspects. I still have people who watching TBN in my family. God.
Really? Oh my God.
Well, it's something I think it's habitual. At older age, I've surmised that as folks get older, that some things are just habitual, that they get into. I'm used to hearing background noise. I'm used to hearing, but so there's all spectrums of Christianity, and there's Muslims in my family as well. It hit Trinidad hard for a bit because I have some cousins who have clear Arabic names.
He got a couple Luke Mons.
Yeah. I have some Sakis and Tundes and so
it's so funny. When I was in Venezuela, one of the guides, or one of the journalists, actually, there were a couple of Muslim ladies, a couple of hijabis, and they're like, "Oh, what's your last name?" And I said, "Lukman," and they're like, "Oh, really? We got a half Muslim over here."
Yeah, and then my aunt on my dad's side, she also converted. So and she wears the hijab and everything, so she's fully. But again, to say that it runs the spectrum, but I do think that even in trying to poach a conversation about how things are misinterpreted, then becomes like, I guess it's read as people are trying to be or attempt to convert folks over, and I don't know that that's ever the case to explain something, right? If it is that we're seeing the way that things are working, especially now, right? If we talk about like the Christian Crusades and we're listening to Pete Hesworth and you see what I'm saying? These things, historical memory, right? And so to the point of your book, I think it's important that we understand how things are developing, where they come from, because these people are not white supremacists. Like, none of this just is by happenstance, right? Yes. There is an ideology that they are honed in on, right? And there is a belief that is driving and moving them forward. Whether or not it's ridiculous on its face, it is what is happening. And so when we think about like the Bible Belt, and that these are the figures coming out of that, and where the Bible Belt is situated. And and so and the amount of misinterpretation that happens from there's a church on every corner, and each church has a different interpretation of the Lord, right? or Utah, for instance. When I watch Salt Lake City, it's not, there's a woman, she just got out of jail. Judge Shaw's free, but she's a Muslim, and then they had a lady who's, I think it's Baptist. I don't know what Mary does. They be singing in tongues and stuff, and then they have these Mormons, right? And so you see, like, there's different aspects of religion that are all wrapped up in each other in a particular kind of way without any clarity on what people are talking about or what it means, what the faith is, how it has developed, even in talking about the death of the supreme leader, right? And why it was taken so broadly, not simply because he's Muslim, right? And I think it's important that we don't collapse. There's different aspects of Christianity, like there's different aspects of Islam, and so yeah, I do think it's important for us to have an understanding so that we can make the decision. Is this something that we actually want to believe in or not? But I think much of what we throw away on the offset or react to is not even based on anything except for what people have made up, essentially, right? So so I think it is important to kind of even know what we're reacting to. So I say all that to say I appreciate you writing the book.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm hoping it can fund some more travel so I can disappear. That's all.
Did y'all want me to slap the map now?
Did you come back in here just to ask that we were having a nice conversation?
You were. It was great. Man, I was on. It was great.
Okay, slap.
Oh yeah, what part? What part? What part?
All right. Fine. Toss the satellite. Okay. Hi, this is the Remix Morning Show. I'm Jackie Lukman. That's Erica Keynes. And yes, there is news. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Where do we want to start? Erica, did you know that the Trump regime just met with, where is this? A bunch of leaders in the global south. A bunch of Latin American leaders. Okay, there we go. Met with Latin American leaders, turning his attention to the Western Hemisphere. Trump encouraged Latin American leaders to band together to combat violent cartels as his administration looks to demonstrate it is still committed to sharpening U.S. foreign policy focus on the Western Hemisphere, even as it deals with 5 alarm crises around the globe. Oh boy. The fact that CBS News, which I understand is now owned by Uber Zionist Barry Weiss, so of course it's going to be reported like this, but Trump is not dealing with 5 alarm crises around the globe. The US is causing 5 alarm crises around but okay, the gathering, which the White House called the Shield of the Americas Summit, came just 2 months after Trump ordered an audacious US military operation to capture Venezuela's then president. He's still the president. And audacious is a boastful term in a positive way. Ooh, man. And whisk him and his wife to the United States to face drug conspiracy charges. All of that is no narco trafficking. In his opening remarks, Trump said the assembled leaders are united in, quote, the conviction that we cannot and will not tolerate the lawlessness in our hemisphere any longer, end quote. He was joined by little Marco, Pete Kegsbreath, former Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, Kristi Puppy Killer Noem, who was recently named Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas, Western Hemisphere. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. What does the Treasury Secretary have to do with uh-huh. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer were also in attendance. Money. This is not about combating any drug, because really, if the United States government under any president was serious about combating cartel activity in any other country, they would actually deal with the material conditions in this country that create drug addiction, because the
Yeah.
United States is the greatest supply customer of illicit drugs. So this whole foolishness, yeah. So this is the picture of all of these folks, and missing from this group of Latin American leaders are the representatives of Nicaragua, Cuba, Venezuela, because obviously those
Thank God.
countries. Uh, right? Um, but here's the other thing: leaders of Argentina, Bolivia, Honduras, and the Dominican Republic joined the gathering of the Shield of the Americas at the Republican president's Trump National Doral, Miami, a golf resort where he is also set to host the group, the G20 summit later this year. So Trump is making money. He and his businesses are making money hand over fist from this second presidency of his. This
Oh, yeah.
Shield of the Americas thing came out of the cancellation of the Summit of the Americas, because the Summit of the Americas was canceled when the U.S. kidnapped Maduro. so,
And
so
also want to note that the last Summit of the Americas that was here in LA under
mhm.
Biden, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela were also excluded.
Yes, they
But the
were. Yep.
Caribbean leaders, although they all spoke out, still took their asses to LA. So just want to note that we're not seeing anything unprecedented. Because I think people, I'm glad we're talking about it, because our guest that we have coming on that I'm really excited about, we're going to dig deeper into what it actually means, especially for Cuba. But this is another instance of these security alliances that have been occurring in Latin America and the Caribbean. So under Biden, as folks may have heard me name, that Kamala Harris and Hakeem Jeffries went to the CARICOM summit. CARICOM has their leadership summits every year. And we've just seen the ranting and the raving of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago at the last one. But that they went to that one primarily to advocate for something to be done as it pertains to Haiti. You know, there's a crisis in Haiti. And so as we're talking about narco trafficking and drugs, the use of crime and violence and terrorism has been occurring in Latin America and the Caribbean for a couple years now. There's been an uptick of it, especially as it relates to Haiti, which has created policies like the Global Fragilities Act, which is why Operation Trade Winds exists, which is the it's country to country military relations. So Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Bahamas, Jamaica, Suriname, they all engage in these practices with Southcom yearly. And so it changes areas. It goes to Barbados as well. So the more recent one was the Alliance for Security, Justice, and Development Strategy, which was about the uptick in crime, a wave of crime across the Caribbean, right? And there was, but when we talk about even the proliferation of guns, there is not one gun manufacturer, like building or area in the Caribbean. And so it's already been named that this is coming out of Miami on these shipping boats. They're entering ports, etc., etc. but crime is a big deal. And so the Caribbean for a long time, as Dr. Tomanisha John, who is prolific, especially in the area of the Caribbean, as she has named, CARICOM has been amping up these sort of security alliances for a long while now. And so what we see now with this shield, which is just a play on words, it's not really that different of countries. Guyana is involved in this one just as it was involved in that one. We see the same Argentina. We are seeing the same leaderships and the same nations involved in these offshoots or different developments or frames of the exact same thing with the exact same sort of narrative and goal, which is to maintain and spread U.S. hegemony through the region. Biden reintroduced the Monroe Doctrine the moment he said that he was going to treat Latin America and the Caribbean as a front yard, that he was going to change the relationship. Marco Rubio was working under the Biden administration, writing policies for sanctions on Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela the whole time. With, what's his name, Tim Kaine, or who was running with Hillary? Is that who it was?
Yep, it was Tim Kaine.
Yeah, the both of them.
Mm-hmm.
There have been special hearings in these last 6 years where they are openly admitting the right. Republicans are openly admitting that they're going into areas like Honduras, and they're going into these areas and sowing dissent in the Afro-Indigenous and LGBTQ communities that they want, so that they're trying to develop color revolutions in these areas. The what was the act in response to China? I can't remember that act that came out in 2021.
Was that the global fragilities?
No, not the global. It's something China Act. I'll find it. But it names that they're going to set up NGOs across Latin America and the Caribbean to do just this, right? And so it's just a big deal. I think this Shield of the Americas is significant because it is set out to do one thing. They talked about one thing primarily, and that was Cuba.
Yep.
And so from the CARICOM summit to what we're seeing, with this Shield of the Americas summit, that has been the lingering narrative that we want to help the Cuban people, but that damn dictatorship,
that damn communism.
Yeah. And even to the point of using Cuban doctors and saying human trafficking, that came out of Biden.
Yep.
Biden charged them. That, what's his name? Because I think, I try to get over these people as soon as they leave office. But the last Department of Defense, what's his name?
Oh,
with the hair. Cuban. He was Cuban, wasn't he?
Oh Lord, I can't remember.
He charged Africa Stream.
Oh shoot! No, I thought
he also charged. Huh? I can't remember names. Sorry, guys. Yeah. It's very first in the morning, and I'm going off. But also, I say that to say that they came up with that human trafficking.
Lloyd Austin.
No, not Lloyd Austin. The white one. Blinken. Thank you.
Secretary of State.
Yeah, State.
Yeah.
I could not remember anything. But thank you, Blinken. Blinken has a press release and all of that, press conference naming that, and this was post 2020 when they were going around saving the world. And so as they come into office 2021, Biden administration does not end the sanctions. They up it. The U.S. continues to vote on the blockade. They charge Cuba with human trafficking, which is part of the sanctions. So it continued and continued and continued. And so now we're at a point of, it's not looking good. And they're increasingly isolated because the Caribbean nations that have had a long-standing relationship is attempting to manipulate said relationship to keep their own standing with the U.S. because CARICOM does not exist to deal with global or regional relationships. CARICOM exists so that they are not interfering with each other as they are vying for Western, resources, and and so that is what the summits are about. How can we continue these relationships with one another so that we are not adversaries in trying to vie for Western resources and Western corporations and things like that. CARICOM is not a people's-based institution. It never was created to be that. So even when we advocate about CARICOM making statements on Palestine or Haiti or Venezuela, that's not their role. And they are very kind of like, they have to be pushed by the people to even say anything. And whatever they do, it's very minute, very militose. But as it pertains to Cuba, this is unprecedented. And they're also saying they're putting Cuban doctors out because they're offering to pay Cuban doctors directly. And because they can't pay Cuban doctors directly, they don't want to pay the evil dictatorship government. And that's not how that works. Cubans go to medical school for free. Housing is free. They make more, traveling out, and they contribute to their nation. And so they're trying to break that up or try to make it like the Cuban government is controlling the people. The people don't have freedom or economic freedom. Whereas we do here, allegedly, right? We have economic freedom.
And this is happening at the same time, the expulsion of Cuban doctors from these countries, that the U.S. government is peddling these agreements with some of these same countries of this health initiative that the U.S. is offering these. It is not going to benefit the people, but also these countries are making these deals, jockeying for this recognition and crumbs from the table of the U.S. during an ongoing genocide and an ongoing illegal and immoral attack, unprovoked attack on Iran, where they literally started off killing 180 little girls. This is the context in which the leaders of these or representatives of these countries are making deals with the people who are doing these things. So these are the people that you are going to have to contend with if you're going to organize for something better. You're going to have to do something with them people. I keep saying it. and I don't know how else to make people see. We're going to have to do something with these Zionists who are fleeing Israel. We're going to have to do something with these people in both parties in this country. We're going to have to do something with these leaders who are happy to make deals with the folks in this government supporting all of this. We're going to have to do something with these people, y'all. We can't just act as if, we're going to wait this out for the next 2 or 3 years, and once Trump is gone, everything is going to go back to normal. This is the normal. It always has been this.
And then also, I just want to name, to the point, because I'm watching Trinidad and Tobago. It's really, I just keep thinking it's going to be a long recovery from whatever this is, because say Trump does get out in the next 2 or 3 years, pending he does not try to steal the election, and we're not in a we're not all in the FEMA trucks, pending that doesn't happen. Those military bases set up are just not going to eradicate themselves across the Caribbean. Those radar systems that they are setting up in Guyana and Trinidad, they're not just going to eradicate themselves because Trump is no longer in office. Those remain, especially because the U.S. also has a 5 to 8 year plan to remain in the Caribbean. So if folks would, take a gander at the White House documents, because they say everything they're going to do, coherent or not, you'll be able to at least, they write it down. So I do think that's important to really understand that it's going to be a long road, because they also suffer across the Caribbean from this two-party dichotomy, and in some instances it's on steroids there, because they're very anchored in long-seated hate for the other party, and some of it is based on race. There's racial components, especially Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, that play out through parties. But yeah, it's a road. But we have some guests coming on who can.
We do, and
help us discuss it.
Let's bring up the ear doctor to get us on the right road to continuing our conversation with our guest.
Yeah, I know, because you was just talking about these people. These people. Oof.
What? Because they're not like us. They're not like us.
They not.
I actually hate that song. I'm sorry.
Don't be singing that during Drake summer.
Oh no! Stop!
It's like a controller outside. It's 70-degree weather.
I am laughing at Musa and Onyu Sonwoo in the background talking about no, fine.
Hey, I know you can't wait to see your Be More sister on Housewives of Slutty Vegan Pinky.
No,
I can't wait to see her.
I'm boycotting season 17.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I don't condone.
You don't condone. I can't wait to hear that Baltimore accent. I ain't gonna hold you. All right, let's go take a quick break, and we're gonna come back with our guests right here on no other than the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Remix on the remix.
Sometimes a man forget, sometimes a man forget, sometimes a man forget, sometimes a man forget. Maria man and him name is Ricky. From last month, him a go like him crazy. Woman in time after 7:30, when it's sun a shine and the neighbor there. I see get me so vexed and it get me so angry. Thunder get mad and decide to go nasty. Drape him up and say listen to me. No. You don't know that you'll be coming early. And when I try to do this situation,
all right. Let me tell you a little bit. You celebrating Women's History Month. We got to give it up to the one of them called Shelly Thunder. Yes, coming straight from Jamaica. DJ singer. Came out in the 80s. She hit you in the head with song Cool. And she did her thing. She transitioned later into gospel music. She got like 2 albums. Last time you probably heard her was on Lauryn Hill's album on the song Forgive Me Father, when she was on that joint. So big up to the one that called Shirley Thunder, and much love. All right, with that said, let's get back to it right here on the Remix Morning Show. Yeah, yo. Yeah. All right. Okay. Looks like Jackie went to go walk the dog for a second. So but we're gonna get this party going. Ricky, you on froze?
I don't know what happened.
All right, it looks like it. All right, well, we got Jackie Lukeman back in the building, unfroze, Rick Hay, Erica Kane. So let's go ahead and get me up out of here and bring forth our guests on the best show in the world. Right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let me find this thing right here, and then we can get.
Is it the best? I don't know.
Welcome back, y'all, to the Remix Morning Show. I'm Jackie Lukeman. This is Erica Kane. And yes, we are joined by our guests today, Musa and Onyu Sonwoo Chatoye. Thank you so much for joining us. Y'all come on here and tell us about yourselves. For those who are watching who don't know who these beautiful people are.
Well, her confidence is back.
As we
Yes.
can see.
The Hood Communist crew is in the chat today. We're on live. Peace, y'all. My name is Musa, co-host at Rap Revolutionary African Perspectives Radio on 89.3, editor at Hood Communist, community organizer, cultural worker, all of those things. Good to be here, as always.
And hey, y'all, I am Onyethanu Chatoyer. I am co-chair of the National Network on Cuba. I organize with the Vencemos Brigade, the oldest U.S.-Cuba solidarity delegation in the U.S., and I'm also an editor with The Communist. Very happy to be here.
All right. So, as I named, Hood Communist is returning this week. So tomorrow we will be publishing some really great pieces. But I did want to bring folks on today because we have decided to return for something really important. Before the break, Jackie and I were talking about this recent Shield for the Americas Summit. And, you know, how much of this discussion there being had was on Cuba and some of the relations with Cuba. So wanted to bring you all on because Hood Communist has been endorsing this week of action in defense of Cuba. We are one of the endorsing organizations, if you will, even though we are a blog. So wanted to speak more about that and then thoughts on the Shield of the Americas Summit.
Yeah, so the NNOC, first and foremost, is a coalition of social justice organizations in the so-called United States, united in our opposition to genocidal U.S. policy against Cuba and the attempts of the U.S. government to overthrow the Cuban Revolution. It's unions, it's socialist parties, it's national liberation organizations, it's churches, it's all kinds of different organizations united by that one goal. And so there has already been an intense escalation of the U.S. attacks on Cuba, even before that gathering of the ops of the Americas that happened last Saturday. Obviously, there's like the January 29th executive order that kicked off the oil blockade on the island, threatening tariffs on any country that sold oil to Cuba, and then like the U.S. Coast Guard and military like straight up intercepting ships, oil ships in the ocean and turning them away from Cuba. So they have been intentionally escalating the blockade, escalating the suffering of the Cuban people. And so we had already decided that we had to do something, that we had to mobilize the over 65 organizations that are in the network to take action. Because the network is so broad, because there are so many different kinds of organizations in it, when we call for the network to mobilize, we reach a lot of different kinds of people. And that's precisely what we wanted to do. Like there's so much happening in the world with the unprovoked attacks on Iran, with the escalation of the genocide in Gaza and that border peace nonsense that obviously like Cuba is like yet another thing for people to pay attention to, but it's really important for folks to understand like the same imperialist enemy that's attacking Palestine, that's attacking Iran, that's attacking Venezuela is going for Cuba for the same reasons. And so that's why we call for the week of action. And then after we call for the week of action, the Shield of the Americas Summit happened in Miami, Florida. Like I woke up on that day and I was like, I'm in a bad mood. And then I saw the news and I was like, oh, that's why. Because all the ops from the Americas and from the US government are in South Florida right now plotting on Cuba. And you can see in the comments from the press conference, in the statement from the White House that came out afterwards, like what the intent is. They're phrasing it as like the war on drugs, but really what it's about is like going for every single government resisting imperialism in this hemisphere and using these puppet leaders to do it.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would add to that, Onye, 10 out of 10, +1 to everything you said, is just also for people to understand the larger and wider like historical context to how we arrived where we are. Even more recently, if people read Hood Communist and our co-editor, the wonderful Salifu, he actually wrote about how it was Kamala Harris who played a very key role in courting the Caribbean, quote unquote, during her tenure as vice president, going across the Caribbean, turning it from the backyard to the front yard, quote unquote, and setting the stage for what we're seeing now, which is just like a development and an escalation of this neo-colonial strategy. So it's not even a new strategy, it's just a heightened and a development where whatever, illusions of independence and sovereignty the Caribbean tried to pretend like they have kind of fallen to the wayside, right? And the other point that I want to remind people is, again, the U.S. actively, illegally occupies Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, which is one of their largest naval bases in the world. So they're like, all of this talk about democracy and freedom in Cuba, quote unquote, from the US that came out of this summit, while at the same time they are ignoring international law and even their own US domestic law, which we know they don't care about either of those things, to continue illegally occupying Cuban land and then the Cuban sea space as well. And so I just always feel like that's important context, because people forget when you hear this term Guantanamo Bay thrown around that is literally on the island occupied. And that context can never be forgotten, because I don't think the Cubans want us to forget that they want the Yankees off their land as well.
Yeah. So to the point of, checking out Hood Communists, we have, as a editorial group, have been long-term solidarity with Cuba. But I do want to ask, why? There's, even in this, because speaking of Salifu has also written, anti-Blackness out of the clouds as it pertains to Cuba, because that's often what we hear. Cuba's anti-Black. And so just want to talk to you or hear from you both about, what's the significance for Cuba, but then also, what are the personal relationships that have been developed with the people of Cuba that makes this more than a sort of abstract solidarity?
First, I'll take the anti-Black point first. I think that this is so ludicrous and bizarre that this is what so many people, particularly in the US, perhaps the most racist empire to ever exist in history, say about this small island that has done more than anywhere else on earth to combat and reverse racism and at a structural level. And so, what you often hear when you're speaking with revolutionary Cubans on the island is they're like, please don't bring that language to us. We have our own modes of discourse and struggling and organizing domestically. We don't want to hear about abolition. We don't want to hear about anti-Blackness. We don't use these terms. We have our own discourses and our own long, fruitful struggle. And it's important to understand it framed like that, because we're talking about a context in which people from a place where upwards of 1,000 to 2,000 Black people are killed with pure impunity by the state each year, millions in prisons, are going somewhere where they themselves say, if there is any lingering racism, it is purely horizontal, it's social. There's social changes that have to be made, because you have a 65-year revolution continuing with 400 years of colonialism. But they don't have state execution of Black people. They don't have mass incarceration of Black people. They don't have laws and policy specifically targeted at Black Afro-Cubans, of Africans in Cuba, right? So I think that it's just so ludicrous when you take a step back and actually think about, what are you comparing and what are you talking about? And the reason we have to be as firmly in solidarity with the revolution in Cuba as possible is because, even just on the surface level, what they have done for Africans across the world, not just in the US, across the world, in the Caribbean, across Africa, across Latin America, is incomparable at this point to almost anywhere else on earth. You can think of people like Assata Shakur and the dozens upon dozens of Panthers and Black liberation organizers and activists who were given safe asylum in Cuba. People like also Walter Rodney from Guyana. You can think about them literally putting hundreds of Cuban soldiers on the lines to fight apartheid in places like Angola and across West Africa, where they provided tractors and agricultural support. Across the southern portion of Africa, where they provided educational professionals to help develop their educational system. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on, but Cuba, maybe more than anywhere else, has literally put Pan-African solidarity into practice as state policy. And we owe it to them to see them liberated, not in 100 years, but in our lifetime.
Yeah, 100% agree to everything Musa said. And the other really important thing to understand about why Cuba has shown up so consistently and so steadfastly for African liberation is because a majority of the island population is African. And the roots of the Cuban Revolution are in the resistance of enslaved African people to slavery, and also the resistance of indigenous people like Hatuey to Spanish colonialism. And then all throughout the history of resistance against colonialism and imperialism on the island from the very beginning, you see Africans in leading positions. In fact, the culmination of the Week of Action in Defense of Cuba is on Sunday, the 15th, which is the anniversary of the protests at Paraguay, which is where Antonio Maceo, an African Cuban revolutionary hero, Cuba's independence movement fought Spain to a ceasefire, and Spain put out this agreement saying like, okay, we will agree to back off if you accept a fake peace. Like, we won't abolish slavery. You only have symbolic independence, but we'll stop firing you. And Antonio Maceo and the mommies were like, absolutely not, because the majority of Cuba's population was African, and they understood any kind of independence that where slavery continued was not going to be real independence for an African population. And you see that kind of steadfastness and clarity and refusal to compromise throughout Cuba's revolutionary history. And again, in like case after case after case, it's Africans. It's Africans. Cuba's an African nation. Fidel Castro said that. Amilcar Cabral said that. So they're fighting in solidarity with us, but they're also fighting for themselves because they understand our liberation is interconnected.
And
one last thing, to Salifu's article, Out of the Clouds, we take a lot of brigades from the US to Cuba. Like the VP has brought like over 10,000 people to the United States. The National Network on Cuba has the Mayday Brigade. And let me tell you, the propaganda in the United States about anti-Blackness in Cuba, about queer antagonism in Cuba, it always impacts the brigades. Like, people come with that mindset, even when they want to go to Cuba. And so we have to engage in intentional political education with them to kind of like make sure they don't start tripping about lies when they get there. And so Lipu's article is something that we always make people read in our prep process, because it really lays out that the Africans on the island in Cuba are materially and politically in a better place than us, because they fought for free healthcare, they fought for subsidized housing, they fought for free education, and they won that with their organized efforts. Whereas here, like Musa pointed out, we are murdered without consequences by the state. We are disenfranchised. We are locked out of employment. We are locked out of safe housing. So for us to think that we're going to go to Cuba and save anybody, save African people or anybody, is like absurd, because we are trying to get to where they already got to.
Listen, the savior complex that even our own people bring with them to places like Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, like, and they think that by having the savior complex, they're doing the revolutionary thing, which is so backwards. But to your point about, like, I want to reemphasize the Cuban Revolution was an African revolution. And Fidel himself said that in 1999. And I want to just encourage the audience to look up something called the Partido Independiente de Color, the Independent Party of Color. This was in essentially 1900 to 1908, long before what we know as the formal revolution. And there were several revolutionary African parties formed by the former enslaved. And it was both Spain and the US, time and time again, who would go in and slaughter these parties in mass, because the Africans were helping to essentially foment revolution decades prior to what would later become the formal revolution. And so Fidel and many of the very early revolutionistas will literally say it was the Partido de Independiente de Color, and it was the African fighters who literally taught them how to fight, taught them the skills they needed to carry out, because they had been warring with both Spain and the US for decades. They had the skill set. They had been warring with their slave masters for centuries. And so to understand Cuban history is literally to understand our own African history. And as Dr. Gerald Horne points out in his book, Race to Revolution, anyone with ancestry from the southern US, specifically Georgia and Florida, you have first, second, and third cousins who were trafficked back and forth constantly between Cuba, between the island and the southern US. So I'll yield there.
I'm so glad that y'all are explaining this ridiculous notion of anti-Blackness in Cuba, and the way we USians show up when we go to these places, and the messed up imperialist attitudes that we bring with us, do you all think, and thank you for mentioning Salifu's article. I was looking for it before, but I finally found it. Here it is. And I will drop a link in the chat for you all to have it. But I'm listening to you all describe the advanced understanding, this revolutionary understanding among people in Cuba in general, but Africans in particular. What do you think that says about the way people in revolutionary countries are able to understand solidarity, anti-imperialist solidarity, without the weird distractions that we have to work through here? Like, I'm thinking in particular of what's going on now with Iran, in the discussions we're having now about Iran. We couldn't, and it's almost like the same kind of discussions we have with Cuba, when we say the US needs to leave Cuba alone, and then we get from people, well, Cuba is anti-black and that dictator. But we're seeing the same things in the discussions about Iran, where it's like, stop bombing Iran, leave them alone. Y'all killed their spiritual leader, leave them alone. And the response is, but Iran kills 30,000 of their own people. It's a repressive regime, blah, blah, blah. Do you think being in a revolutionary society, having fought a revolution and defending a revolution against colonialism and imperialism, makes it, I don't know, makes it clearer for people what solidarity is, and makes it easier for those people to avoid these weird pitfalls that keeps them from getting to the point?
I 100% think that that's the case. I think about that a lot. So actually, we were the last brigade that the Ben Simmons Brigade organized was the African Indigenous Palestinian Brigade, which took place December to January. And we happened to be in Cuba on January 3rd when the US government invaded Venezuela, kidnapped Nicolas Maduro, assaulted and kidnapped Celia Flores. And also, I feel like people do not talk about this enough, but they killed 100 people in 45 minutes. Anyway, so we were in Havana. What's that?
I said they killed Cubans.
Yeah, exactly. Like 30 Cubans, they were there at the request of the Venezuelan government as well, or 32 rather. So we were in Havana at the time, and we had been planning to go to Matanzas to go to the Cimarron monument, but all of our programming was canceled because the whole of Cuban society was called to mobilize to the U.S. embassy to protest against what had happened in Venezuela. And up until that day, at every single stop, every single Cuban we talked to, doctors, veterans, students, teachers, youth, every single one was like, when we were like, what should we do to support Cuba in this moment? They said, defend Venezuela, defend Venezuela. Venezuela cannot fall, defend Venezuela, because they understood how interconnected Venezuela's fate and Cuba's fate were. Whereas I feel like even in like progressive movements in the United States, and I say this even about the Cuba Solidarity movement, to be honest with you, there's like a sense of like taking the struggle out of the context of global imperialism. Like what's happening to Cuba is only happening to Cuba, and you can't connect it to Palestine. You can't connect it to Iran. You can't connect it to Venezuela. And all that is like pure confusion and indoctrination from the capitalist imperialist system, because we are constantly bombarded with messaging saying all these nations are bad, all these nations deserve what happens to them. And it just so happens that because the Cuba Solidarity movement is so entrenched and so old, that a lot of people have been shaken out of that with Cuba, but they still have the same confusion about other places. And it's really a challenge for us in this moment to help people understand there is no looking at Cuba in isolation from the rest of the movement. That's something that people living in these countries deeply, deeply understand, that their fate is tied to the rest of the world. But people living in the West do not understand that yet. I think that we will wake up to it. We are starting to realize the U.S. is not invincible. The U.S. has no plan. The U.S. is filing the drain. And so yoking our futures to this place is a bad idea. But we're still facing like constant bombardment of propaganda, teaching us narrow nationalism, teaching us exceptionalism that confuses us about what's actually happening in the world.
Yeah, I also wanted to just quickly to add to the point about Iran that you made. I also think it's important to note the USS Gerald left from Norfolk, Virginia, carried itself down to Venezuela, was involved in the interception of the oil that was heading to Cuba and then went to Iran, right? So if we're not seeing how these things are connected, I think it's even important for us to get clarity that they are connecting these things regardless, that they're using these mechanisms, they're global mechanisms coming out of the US, using our folk, right? Our family, our friends who are joining and enlisting to carry this out. So we need to be more cognitive of how these things are moving. So agreed.
Yeah, and I'll just add a quick anecdote to so I'm a member of the Red Barrial Afrodescendiente, which is a neighborhood organization or collective in Havana and Matanzas. And this group is majority largely people who practice like African religions. And when I started organizing with them and getting involved, they had no clue anything about Islam whatsoever. They did not, they're like, pray 5 times a day. They don't know anything about anything with Islam because it's relatively small on the island, even though Islam has been there since enslaved Africans arrived. And there, I did not have to engage in any kind of social struggle with them, right, on a social level around what Muslims do and don't do, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. I was met with the utmost respect almost instantly. I was met with curiosity and respect. And, you know, in talking with my comrades, they would make comments like, kind of jokingly, but like, well, we know the US hates Muslims, so we love them, you know, or we know how Islam is used in the media, so we also know how we want to not use and abuse this thing, right? And so there, my point in saying that is simply to say, like, there is a level of social understanding and sophistication, even if you want to remove the sort of political from it. There's like this understanding that when you're a part of this larger world, that you accept difference, you take investigation very seriously, right? A lot of people in Cuba call themselves social investigators, and so that maps itself onto the political world, where they don't need to know the ins and outs of Islam and believe every propaganda lie that's told to them to know they have to, they not want to and need to, they have to stand in solidarity with Iran and the people of Iran. You know, I think like that sophisticated look on social life in Cuba plays out into politics really, to me, perfectly most of the time, where they're, you know, I've been there on the island when, like Onye said, major events have happened, and the way that literally the entire island is able to stop what they are doing. You know, a few years ago there were 22 firemen, Cuban firemen, who were killed in an explosion. Island went, I was there, and the island went into 6 days of mourning, national mourning. Most of the island that was like non-essential was shut down, and people were in the streets mourning for 6 days. We have literally no equivalent of that in the US. We have entire elementary schools that get mowed down, and people still clock in at a Chick-fil-A like nothing happened. And so
right.
We're talking about a people where revolution has given them a clear lens, and that is why we should be looking to them and their sharp political analysis for our own.
It's just amazing to me, how desperately the empire wants to destroy every example of what humanity is supposed to look like on the planet. Like, do we not see that? Yes, this is about capitalism, and it's about, you know, resource and exploitation and profit, and yes, all of that, and hegemony, but really, it is about, these people are human beings, and they are, for us living in the midst of this empire, um that gives us the example of every inhuman way of existing in a society, um and existing in a society for the profit of a very few. Like, our existence in this society is not predicated on anything that's a benefit to us, right? It's not like we exist in this country at the whim of the Epstein class for their for their power and benefit and profit, and that's not what it's like
Yeah.
in Cuba. That's not what it's like in Venezuela. That's not what it's like in Nicaragua. In Nicaragua, it's not like that in China. It's not like that in the AES. It's not, and that's what they don't want us to know. That another world is literally possible because another world absolutely exists right now. And we are this close, I think, to finding out. And of course, that's one of the reasons why they're like, no, blow all this shit up right now. Blow it up.
Right. Yeah, I agree. An empire in decline, and I think we've seen that because it's its arms are reaching too wide in too many spots at once. But I've been in these conversations. I'm returning to Marxism, to my studies, and we've been talking about primitive accumulation, and really, ultimately, the U.S. just serves the purpose of death. We could argue exploitation and resources and things like that, but ultimately this is all about death. And so they have no qualms killing us. And you see that with the flippancy of a school building being blown up, or the way that they can strangle Cuba, or what they're doing here domestically in our own neighborhoods. They have no qualms or issues with that. And ultimately, that is the goal. If you look at how it's played out, if we look at how systematically and geopolitically these things are moving, it is death is the goal, right? When we talk about waste, we're talking about that, the waste of human lives. And so even when we talk about advocacy and solidarity, there is a level of efficacy and morality that is needed in how we are moving within these spaces, more so than that particular kind of clarity as we're talking about politically, right? People are always going to reverse back to their lived experience. For me, it's bewildering because we've been here countless times, and it's just like every nation we're back at it again, talking about lived experience or denouncing lived experience. But ultimately, I don't think that any of that really matters if there's no ethical and moral component. Folks can have their own lived experiences in these nations, but if they don't see anything ethically wrong with death, morally wrong with death, then it doesn't matter. And we see that play out in Iran. We see that play out with the Casanos in Miami, right? They do not care. And so that's just where my head has been in terms of how are we activating our people in these sort of solidarity spaces. What is the messaging? Because really, I think we are so entrenched in this sort of USian culture of death that ethically and morally, as a community, as a people, as Africans, we're a bit detached from even the shock of death now, which I think we need to kind of get back to, hold in on, so that we can really be of use in our solidarity.
Absolutely, 100%. And, when I tell people the impact of the US blockade on Cuba, sometimes people just literally don't believe me. They're like, no, our government wouldn't do that. When I say I have friends who had surgeries and they had to arrive at the surgery with gloves and masks for the doctors to use when they're giving them the surgeries, when I say I returned to Cuba and all of my friends are literally 50 pounds lighter because they're hungry, people don't, you can look and see the abuses that this same exact US state is doing right here domestically, but somehow you have detached enough to not think that they're doing that times 10, 90 miles off the coast of Miami. And to this point, I also want to just mention the US, us on the left, we should be as vigilant as possible right now. Because at the highest levels of US administration, we have people saying things like Cuba is next. Diaz-Canel, the president of Cuba, we're coming for you next. Like, this is the rhetoric. I could not even fathom any other foreign leader speaking in this blazing manner about another, sitting leader. The US assassinates them, kidnaps them, and threatens them. Two, it's the US that has an extremely long, detailed history of sending in provocateurs, over 630 assassination attempts on President Fidel Castro. One of the most notable moments is the Bay of Pigs, of course. In 1961, over 1,500 Cuban exiles, extremists, were trained at places like Fort Benning in Georgia, US. They were trained by the CIA in places like Fort Benning and the School of the Americas, given full military gear and equipment to launch a full invasion onto the island, which was squashed in just 3 days by the revolutionary Cuban forces. There's also like people like Luis Posada, who was also again trained at US Fort Benning. And he is most known for taking over a Cuban airliner, a Cuban airplane, and bombing it and killed 73 people. And then later in the 90s, the CIA again armed him, the same individual, and he led a string of about a dozen bombings at hotels and restaurants all across Havana. And then he even carried out false flag attacks right here in the US to try to frame Cuba for launching attacks in the US to try to incite a war. And a judge let him walk free in 2007, and he died of old age naturally, right? This is the kind of death and decay that the US exports, while Cuba exports doctors and teachers and vaccines and medicines and research, right? Like we really, really have to understand, even look up Operation Northwoods. Operation Northwoods was a Department of Defense program which was extremely well funded, the highest funded program at its time in 1962, which was again arming former Cubans to launch false flag attacks domestically on the US to justify a full-on invasion of the island. And so the more and more you look into it, all the US does is deal death in the name of capital and greed and profit, right? And we have to be as crystal clear with our people about that as possible.
I also like what Jackie said about how another world is possible. It's already here, because I feel like, and also what you said about how they're going hard now because they know it's their last chance. They know that the forces of justice in this world are getting stronger and stronger, that people are realizing, even the puppets. I will say, like, the Caribbean leaders, I don't know what they are thinking. Like, they're already killing, like, bombing fishermen. How do you think it's going to go long term? The US has no permanent friends. Like, what are y'all doing? But anyway, like, I feel like the rest of the world, especially after like they tried to to destroy Russia's economy for not wanting a Nazi state next to them, it's like they straight up took Venezuela's money. Like, everybody's starting to understand, like, the US is an irrational actor. You cannot align yourself with them because they will blow up the whole board. We have to build alternative connections to each other, alternative economic infrastructure, that multipolar world, right? And it's happening, and it's happening. And that's why what Iran did is so exciting, because Iran said, you are going to leave us alone, or every single US and Zionist property in this region is a target. And then they still mess with Iran, and Iran was like, okay, bet. And then they show them, keep your hands off, FAFO. And I feel like this is the energy that the rest, like the time that the rest of the world needs to get on. And it's starting to happen. I actually feel like very, very optimistic, because the US cannot win a war. The US is extending itself too far. The US is declining. It's going to be terrible for those of us living here, which means that we have to organize to support each other. But it's good for the world. I think that we are living in like the last season of the US empire, and that something else will emerge. But in this period where it's like the last chance they have, it's going to be extremely violent and extremely dangerous. And we have to recognize that we have to separate ourselves from the US empire as a project and align with the rest of the planet. They're already going, they're already with us. That's also part of the reason why they're escalating against Cuba, because every single time the US empire has escalated the blockade, with the listing on the state sponsors of terrorism, with the maximum pressure campaign in the first Trump administration that Biden kept in place, that Cuba has suffered. It has been very, very difficult for people on the island, but Cuba, because it is a scientific socialist society, has been able to organize itself to respond, to be able to keep meeting its people's needs. So we have the oil blockade, which was initiated in January, and Cuba, in response, with the support of China, that multipolar world has drastically expanded its solar energy infrastructure, because they recognize the dependency on foreign oil as a point of weakness that could be exploited by US imperialism. So they were like, how do we build our self-sufficiency? Let's invest in solar. And because they are socialist, that transition to solar energy, they went from 0 to 38% of all of their daytime electricity being organized or being generated by solar in less than a year. That's socialism, baby. That's anti-imperialism. Yeah. That's the multipolar world showing up for itself. So like, that's why the US keeps escalating intensely, because Cuba and the multipolar world keeps pivoting to respond, to make sure people are okay. This empire, this system of capitalism does not have any solutions but just killing people and replacing workers with AI. The future is with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And they can kill people, but they can't kill ideas. And I think that is what the imperialists fail to understand time after time after time. You can take out the Iranian leader. You cannot take out the Iranian revolutionary spirit.
No.
You could kidnap Maduro and the first commandant, his wife, but you cannot take out the Bolivarian revolution. That is a spirit that lives on within them. In Cuba, the spirit of the revolting, uprising, enslaved African, all the way up through the revolutionary Cubans that cover the island, you might think you can take out a leader, but you cannot take out a movement, a spirit, an energy. And that spirit is what has guided them for 65 years, despite literally the longest set of sanctions running. The same thing could be said about the DPRK. The same thing could be said about many places across the country and the world, right? Right here in the US, they think that they have squashed Black liberation, yet here we are sitting here talking about death to the imperialists. You know what I'm saying? And so, again, you can't take out a spirit. But what the imperialists don't understand is that for them, to lose a leader is to lose a movement, because their leader is capital and capitalist. And when they lose their leadership, they scramble, they panic, right? Whereas people like places in China, places in Cuba, they have 100-year plans. They have 50-year plans. They have long-term socialist planned economies and developments and movements. So let me get off my high horse, but you can kill a person. You can't kill the ideas.
Stay on that horse. Stay on it.
And I think that's why Fidel remains as relevant as he is today, because of those ideas that were, of the people. And he understood it and he was clear about it. And I know we emphasize battle of ideas for that specific reason, right? It is a long terrain of struggle, especially as we find ourselves, clearly redlining what is and isn't anti-imperialism. And we need anti-imperialist solidarity, because, U.S. and Western imperialism is the primary contradiction. That is what we are all up against. Our humanity is suffering from it. But I don't know if there's any more that we want to touch up on. I do want to remind folks that Hood Communist Thursdays is tomorrow. So there'll be some really great analysis and pieces around why we need to be defending Cuba each and every day of our lives. Also, sign up for our newsletter as well, because this past newsletter that just came out, we shared some of our throwback pieces, some of the statements from our prospective organizations in defense of Cuba. And we also have our Don't Get Caught Slipping that we have to update, but we have a sort of a toolkit, if you will, on information and analysis around Cuba. So if there's anything else that the two of you want to plug in, add on.
Just to say, the week of action in defense of Cuba continues until Sunday the 15th. There are over 15 organizations, over 50 events throughout the country. And I say over 50 because a lot of organizations filled out our registration form, but some organizations did it. So some of them are not on our website. However, if you go to nfc.org, I know that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I appreciate the action. It's the most important thing, but also please fill out the form. Anyways, if you go to nfc.org/events, you will find a listing of events all over the country and virtually organized in solidarity with the Week of Action in Defense of Cuba. Please find one near you. If you want to plan an action, and we made it as broad as possible intentionally, so you can have a kickback, you can show Belly of the Beast videos, you can release a statement, whatever you want to do, get involved, participate in the Week of Action, or find an event near you and participate, and then take pictures and share them on social media and talk to people about Cuba. Again, it's continuing until Sunday the 15th, the anniversary of the protest of Baragua. And it's like a really all hands on deck moment. Like, they are serious about their intent to overthrow the Cuban Revolution. We do not want to be silent in this movement. We have to be activated in organizing in solidarity with Cuba, because Cuba is in danger right now. So nnoc.org/events to find an event near you.
I have nothing to add to that, just that I can't communicate enough how much the people on the island are truly struggling right now due to US imperialism. The blockade, especially since 2020 onward, has turned the knife and ratcheted up its tentacles, its evil maneuvers. Everything from food to medicines, hospitals are going empty. People are hungry. Like the fact that the Cuban Revolution and the Cuban people have held on to this point is a testament to its strength. Now we have to also do our part here within the belly of the beast to support our Cuban siblings, and in the process support ourselves, of course, right? So go to NNLC website, National Network on Cuba, support the Week of Action. Hood Communist tomorrow, we're going to be publishing on Cuba as well, so make sure you check that out. Follow Hood Communist on all of our socials, and viva la revolución cubana.
And I do have this video that you shared with us, Musa, and let's play that as we transition out. How about that?
Sure. You want me to give some quick context real quick?
Yeah.
So this is a BLM exclusive, a clip from the upcoming documentary that we have been diligently working on for almost 3 years now. And this is, y'all, it's hard out here. This is Zuleica Romay. Zuleica Romay is the director of the Afro-American Studies at the Casa de las Americas in Havana. So essentially, she is the national leader and expert in the study of Africans in Cuba and throughout the Americas. And this is us speaking with her to ask, what does it mean for them to receive solidarity from the African diaspora? And then in the second half, she also gives a message directly to, as she puts it, African Americans. And so this is an exclusive clip that I put together for this morning. It's about 3 minutes. And you can look up Zuleica online. Zuleica is literally one of the smartest people I know and have ever had the pleasure of meeting. A fierce, fierce, fierce African revolutionary woman.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Here we go.
Bueno, antes del año 59, África para Cuba solo era el pasado. Gracias a la revolución, al restablecimiento de las relaciones con las repúblicas, con las nuevas repúblicas africanas, al estrechamiento de las relaciones con los pueblos del Caribe, al mayor conocimiento de la población afroestadounidense y de sus luchas, los cubanos empezamos a vernos no como un fenómeno aislado, sino como parte de una comunidad transnacional con una historia común y con unas culturas en las que compartimos muchas cosas. Yo creo que en la misma medida que ha pasado el tiempo, la solidaridad de todos esos pueblos nos ha persuadido de que somos una gran familia distribuida, repartida a lo largo del mundo, como resultado de una historia que también es común, que es la historia de la trata y de la esclavitud. Y entonces hoy, en Cuba, estos afectos, estas amistades, que muchas veces se traducen en acciones solidarias concretas con Cuba, pero otras no. Otras solo nos dan el respeto, el cariño, el afecto. Bueno, incluso esas a nosotros nos bastan, porque son las que nos dan fuerza para seguir luchando. El día que estemos cansados, si algún día de verdad nos llegamos a cansar, solo tendremos que recordar lo que el mundo ha hecho por nosotros, la manera en que ha luchado por nosotros, y nos volveremos a convencer de que vale la pena. La solidaridad es muy importante.
¿Tienen un mensaje para las personas negras y los cambios que van a mirar?
Sí. No se cansen.
Jesus.
No dejen de luchar. No se dejen engañar. No se dejen entretener. Y sobre todo, no permitan que nos pongan unos contra otros. Porque hoy, de la misma manera que los propietarios, los mercaderes de esclavos, cuando iban a adquirir a las personas como mercancía, trataban de que fueran de diferentes etnias para que no se pudieran entender y no se pudieran poner de acuerdo para sublevarse. Hoy hay todo un grupo de estrategias para enfrentarnos, para insistir en nuestras diferencias y para retardar el momento que va a llegar en que todos nos vamos a poner de acuerdo para hacer avanzar nuestra lucha, que es la misma en todas partes. Es una lucha por la dignidad, es una lucha por la justicia, es una lucha por la equidad, con las particularidades que la historia de cada país le pone. Mi mensaje es ese. Sigamos la lucha.
Woo-wee. Praise the Lord. Pass the ammo. Get to fucking work. I don't know what else.
Sigamos la lucha. That's her message, is that we have a shared struggle, and the message is to keep fighting. And again, that's Zuleica Romay from the Casa de las Americas in Havana, Cuba.
Thank you all so much, comrades Musa and Onyusonwu. We appreciate you. Thank you for your work, your dedication, and thank you for joining us today and bringing all of this fantastic encouragement, because we need it.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Peace.
Thank you. Peace. All right, let me see. Where's the thing? Do I have to play the thing? I'm not playing the outro thing because we have 4 minutes left. It is always, every time I've gone to one of these countries and talked to other people who have been engaged in anti-imperialist struggle, it has always struck me how much more clear many folks in other places are about who the enemy is, who their enemy is, and it has begun to kind of seep in that they're confused that we're confused. And I think that's the thing I'm really I think honing in on, that the confusion is deep here. But it's here.
Because I think in some instances they get it, but the levels of propaganda that exist here do not exist anywhere else. You're not finding even ads, right? Even commercials, and you're not seeing that anywhere else. And honestly, it took me having to go to Cuba, having to go to Nicaragua, to come back and really have a better appreciation, not just for the experience, but what it even is to be an organizer, or what I thought it was to be an organizer, or what the toil is of what that takes, right? And so again, like these terms, we talk about scientific socialism, or we say organizing is a scientific process, but ain't no science involved. There's no there's no thought behind what are we trying to accomplish. Even to be able to test whether or not something is going to work. And so, I think having seen that they do have these community to community conversations that informs what the government does, allow for me to say, well, what does that look like to be replicated here? And although the context and the conditions are not the same, these are people who have already experienced or are a generation after the revolution, right? So they live in a revolutionary world. Or live under different conditions, right? Because I do want to say the 90s was hard. I think this is maybe, if not just as bad as the 90s, possibly worse for Cuba, for Nicaragua, for Venezuela. And this was all under this sort of neoliberal capture that was occurring in the region anyway. So we're seeing this play again, with the adverse of governments, that sided with the US in the region, that had real implications for these revolutionary and socialist countries. And they survived that, only to be met with it again, right? They survived it, rebuilt, and now they're being met with it again. And so, oftentimes we talk about the solidarity for Cuba. We see that is particularly different from others. But what I always remind people is that Cuba built that.
Right.
Cuba built this level of solidarity, right? They went out of their way to have connections. NNOC is a project of the Cuban government. They're connected. They have a solidarity arm that's connected to, or has, is able to converse or engage with. I think it's important that we understand so much of these things in ways that I think we're very limited in our approach. And I think that limits our understanding of what could be done.
Yeah, agreed, which is why, these conversations about what this empire has done, is doing now, and what we should be focused on in that context are really, really important. As, this government, this regime in this country, this US regime, um reimposes or reasserts the Monroe Doctrine and is willing to kill as many people around the world as they can to do it. And our response cannot be, well, that regime is bad. They're authoritarian. They're a bunch of psychopaths who kill all their own people, but we shouldn't be bombing them. No, that can't be the response, because the issue, you can't lead a condemnation of the empire by agreeing with what the empire said about the people that the empire is trying to destroy. That makes no sense. But that is exactly what we are doing right now. Is what we, and by we I mean much of the left, so-called left. It's what we're doing right now with Iran. It's what we did with Syria. It's what we did with Libya. It's what we did with Ukraine and Russia, and we're doing it again.
It's rinse and
And
repeat. It's rinse and repeat
yep.
for a nation and a government that people are absolutely opposed to, but except when they bomb other people, right? And so I think that's what I'm saying. Culturally, even to the point of we bombed or we killed. No.
Right. No, we didn't do nothing.
Yeah, culturally, we have been sort of embedded in this USian sort of framework of how we see and understand ourselves in relation to the other world, the rest of the world. And as Africans, it is very important that we have a clarity of our own conditions, because we are a part of the third world. We are a part of the global south. We are colonized internally, right? And so it's really important that we really start to grasp that we cannot be tethered to this sinking, dying ship. Especially as the rest of the world is collectivizing and strengthening up its forces, not by heads of state. I'm talking about the people, the workers of the world are becoming clearer and clearer about what this is, and what they're up against. And we don't want to get left in the crosshairs tied to a we. Okay, don't do that.
Exactly. So, Erica, what you got? What you got on tap for this week? What's going on?
Alcuds Day is on Friday, so we are mobilizing for that. So if you go to blackallianceforpeace.com, an events page, you can also see on our Instagrams. We'll be mobilizing across the country. Also, Saturday, I'm pretty sure there's something going on. I believe locally, we have this screening on Thomas Sankara in Cuba, Sankara's Children, I believe it's called. Here in DC, I know that our comrades in the Diaspora Palente Collective and the PRP DMV will be hosting that this Saturday, I believe. So come out and check that. And tonight, Pac is doing a thing. Pac will be talking about Cuba and African solidarity. So if you are in the DC area, come out for that. Come learn more. Also, you'll learn about the Zone of Peace, because as we talk about Cuba, our Zone of Peace campaign is predicated and based on the call for a Zone of Peace that's coming out of Havana in 2014. So we are extending that call that was made in Cuba to create a zone of peace in the entire region. So you may be able to get some more information about the campaign and the work that we're doing around that as we continue to advocate for Cuba.
All right. Thank you so much, y'all, for hanging out with us. I will probably be back tomorrow. We'll see what happens between now and then. I don't know. Who knows? We don't know anymore. We just wake up, get in front of the computer, and see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens tomorrow. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Let's see.
Black Liberation Media is a collective of Black and African organizers, journalists, academics, and media personalities serving Black and African masses seeking to further grow in their understanding of themselves, their histories, and the African world through entertainment and news. Please continue to like, subscribe, and donate to the channel so we can further serve you and liberate our people. You can also go to blkliberationmedia.org, get some merchandise, and also become a Patreon member and a member from the YouTube. Please do what you can, share, and show your love as we will show ours for you. Black Liberation Media.